Details of a new capital investment entrance scheme. Police launched an investigation into the Western Harbor Crossings time-varying toll scheme computer system after yesterday's hiccup. And the U.S. announces the creation of a multinational operation to safeguard commercial shipping in the Red Sea. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The government has announced details of the capital investment entrance scheme, which will be rolled out in the middle of next year and will accept applications at around the same time. Investors must possess at least 30 million Hong Kong dollars worth of assets, of which 3 million must be allocated to government-designated investment in the innovation and technology industry. Timothy Lee has our top story.
Officials announced details of the capital investment entrance scheme, which was mentioned in the latest policy address. Eligible applicants include foreign nationals, mainland residents who are also permanent residents in another country, as well as Macau and Taiwan residents aged 18 or above. They must be in possession of no less than 30 million Hong Kong dollars worth of assets within 2 years of applying for the scheme. Eligible investments are split into several categories, with the first type being financial assets, consisting of stocks, bonds, and certificates of deposit. The second type being non-residential property, which include commercial or industrial properties. The upper limit for such property is $10 million. All applicants must invest at least $3 million in the government's Capital Investment Entrance Scheme investment portfolio, which will allocate the money to the city's innovation and technology industry. Applicants can move to the SAR with their partners and dependents. After staying for 2 years, they can extend their residency for another 3 years, a total of twice. That comes to 7 years, after which they can become permanent residents of the city. Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury, Christopher Hui, said the scheme is meant to boost the city's status as an international hub of technology.
Regarding the rationale of having included in the portfolio a tech portfolio, I think it's very much in line with our overall objective of this scheme, which is to benefit the real economy of Hong Kong. If you look at the policy address, the budget, I think one of the key emphasis of ours is to make Hong Kong innovation hub.
The government noted the scheme does not pertain to mainland residents who are not foreign permanent residents. Authorities said there are no strict targets for application numbers as of now. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Police suspect the computer system of the Western Harbor Crossing time-varying toll scheme was tampered with after investigations into a number of motorists being overcharged at the tunnel yesterday morning. On the first working day of the second phase of the toll scheme, around 4,700 vehicles were overcharged at the Western Harbor Crossing between around 10 and 11 a.m. Chief Secretary for Administration Eric Chan said he believes the incident was caused artificially. This, as some cybersecurity analysts noted, the cyber attack could be caused internally. Sources said the police will seek out more information from the Transport Department later. A magnitude 6.2 earthquake jolted northwest China's Gansu province just before midnight on Monday. It killed at least 118 people, also injuring hundreds, according to Chinese state media. Authorities have mobilized an array of emergency responses after the quake damaged roads and infrastructure, triggered landslides, and half-buried a village in silt. But rescue work has proved challenging in sub-zero temperatures. The epicenter was 5 kilometers from the provincial border, straddling Gansu and Qinghai, where strong tremors were also felt. Reports say thousands of search and rescue personnel have been dispatched to the disaster zone. President Xi Jinping has urged all-out search and rescue efforts and proper arrangements for the affected people to ensure the safety of people's lives and property. The head of the CIA, Bill Burns, is reportedly heading to Europe for talks with Israeli and Qatari officials on a potential new truce deal in the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. This after the U.S. Defense Secretary visited Israel to talk about scaling back operations in Gaza in a bid to spare civilian lives. Meanwhile, Palestinian group Hamas released a video of 3 elderly Israeli hostages pleading for their release. Nazvi Karim has more.
IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari condemned the clip, describing it as a criminal terrorist video and reassuring the 3 that Israel is coming for them. For family members, though, the video offers hope.
It's a sign of living, of life, and it's good. I hope it's still this situation. In this situation, we don't know.
Their freedom, according to Hamas, depends on Israel halting its bombardment of Gaza. The heads of America's CIA and Israel's Mossad agencies are reportedly in talks with Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani on securing a new truce that would also entail freedom for the hostages.
We would absolutely look to achieve a new humanitarian pause that would allow the release of hostages. The first one was a major priority for the United States. We worked to achieve it across a number of different channels.
More than 100 hostages, mostly women and children, were freed in November during a 7-day truce that also saw Israel release more than 200 Palestinian prisoners. The United Nations, meanwhile, is trying to push through a new resolution through the Security Council that will result in a halt to hostilities, even if it's temporary. The vote was delayed from Monday so its authors, the UAE representing Arab countries, can soften the wording to persuade the United States to either vote in favor or abstain. The US last week vetoed a resolution calling for a humanitarian ceasefire. The latest draft may replace a call for the cessation of hostilities with a suspension. This as US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and called for a transition from high-intensity operations in Gaza. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has announced the creation of a multinational operation to safeguard commercial shipping in the Red Sea. This in the wake of a series of missile and drone attacks by Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi rebels who have threatened to target all ships heading to Israel amid the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Daniel Rowell tells us more.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced the creation of Operation Prosperity Guardian as he began a diplomatic visit to Bahrain, the home to the U.S. Navy's headquarters in the Middle East. As part of Operation Prosperity Guardian, the group of nations, including the UK, France, Bahrain, Canada and the Seychelles, will conduct joint patrols in the southern Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden amid the increasing attacks by Houthi rebels in Yemen.
So this morning, we've launched Operation Prosperity Guardian under the umbrella of Combined Maritime Forces and under the leadership of Task Force 153. That operation is bringing together more than a dozen countries from around the world to conduct joint patrols in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden.
The Iranian-backed Houthis have waded into the Israel-Hamas conflict by attacking vessels in vital shipping lanes. They have even launched drones and missiles at Israel more than 1,000 miles from their seat of power in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a. The Houthis have threatened to target all ships heading to Israel regardless of their nationality and warned international shipping companies against dealing with Israeli ports. About 12% of world shipping traffic normally transits via the Suez Canal, the shortest shipping route between Europe and Asia, and must pass into the Red Sea and waters off Yemen. The unrest has disrupted maritime trade as freight firms reroute around Africa instead. This has added costs and delays which are expected to be compounded over the coming weeks. Still, the announcement of the operation leaves many questions unanswered. Among them, whether any additional countries are willing to shoot down Houthi missiles and drones and rush to the aid of commercial ships under attack in addition to conducting patrols. Dan Rowell, TV News.
In Egypt, President Abdel Fattah ElSissi has secured a 3rd straight term at the helm after sweeping to victory in the presidential election. Egypt's National Election Authority said on Monday that Sisi gained 89.6% of the votes against 3 low-profile political figures. The turnout was 66.8% of the total 67 million eligible voters. Voting took place on December 10th to 12th, while Egyptians abroad cast their votes from December 1st to 3rd. Sisi said the people voted not only for him, but also for Egypt's stance on Israel's inhumane bombardment of neighboring Gaza. Egypt has called for a stop to the bombing and is trying to manage the risk of a spillover. Pope Francis has formally approved letting priests bless same-sex couples. The Vatican issued a new document saying that people seeking God's love and mercy shouldn't be subject to an exhaustive moral analysis to receive it. Earlier, the pontiff suggested that such blessings could be offered under some circumstances if they are not confused with a ritual of marriage. More from NBC News.
Tonight, a radical step of inclusion. Pope Francis giving his permission for Catholic priests to bless same-sex couples. A change of perception, if not doctrine, and reflective of Francis's own more pastoral vision.
Pope Francis deals in big picture, broad brush. He sends a broad message.
The new declaration is a landmark step signaling the Church's welcoming of the LGBTQ community. But the document signed by Pope Francis stresses that the blessing of same-sex couples is not the same as a marriage sacrament in the eyes of the Church.
I'm sure many people won't be satisfied with this. They would think that it's anything short of marriage, anything short of equality is offensive. And on the other hand, some people will see this as an incremental step.
The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops said in a statement, each of us needs God's healing love and mercy in our lives.
It's an overdue decision, but I'm glad that it's been made.
The door now open for so many who have not always felt welcome, thanks to an aging pope still sparking controversial discussions.
I think it will be taken as a step toward eventually allowing marriage. That's not what the Vatican is saying, but that's surely the way it will be perceived by many people.
Molly Hunter, NBC News.
Still ahead, court hearing in the government's appeal in relation to a protest song gets underway. The U.S. and Finland sign a defense cooperation agreement. And a volcanic eruption in Iceland. Welcome back. The High Court had earlier refused to grant an injunction against a 2019 protest song as requested by the Department of Justice. The DOJ then appealed against the ruling, and the case was heard at the Court of Appeal today. Mimo Singhai reports.
After the High Court rejected the Department of Justice application for an injunction order against the song Glory to Hong Kong in July, the DOJ decided to appeal against the ruling. The hearing took place today and was handled by a three-judge panel, Jeremy Poon, Anthea Pang and Karao Ju. Senior Counsel Benjamin Yu, representing the Department of Justice, said the song is capable of endangering national security by inciting people's emotions and boosting their morale to go against the government. Yu also said judicial institutions are responsible for performing the role of safeguarding national security and preventing any activities that will undermine it. The senior counsel also referred to a quote that the song composer said in an interview, "Music is the most powerful weapon to gather the hearts and minds of people." You argued conventional methods and weapons are not necessarily used in riots nowadays, but misinformation and propaganda, including the song, could be used. Judge Jeremy Poon, meanwhile, said the injunction order must consider the exempted people, such as journalists and academics. You agreed individuals from those two categories can be exempted, adding the concern of a possible chilling effect is unnecessary. Senior counsel Abraham Chan, a lawyer acting as friend of the court, said the court should consider the potential impact on society if the injunction is granted. Judge Poon then asked Chan what impact he thinks may generate. Chan described the case as unprecedented, so it will be tricky to provide evidence. Nonetheless, he believes the purpose of the law is to punish someone only after they have committed a crime. The three judges hope the Department of Justice will provide further evidence to support its appeal. The case has been adjourned until February 24th next year. Mimo Singhai, TV News.
Today marks the second day of the sedition and national security trial of Next Digital founder Jimmy Lai. The legal arguments continued to focus on the time limit for prosecution in relation to Lai's alleged publication of seditious materials. Lai was brought to the West Kowloon court at around 7:30 this morning. The prosecution said Lai published over 160 suspected seditious articles. The charge referred to publications made by Lai and 3 companies associated with the now defunct Apple Daily between April 1st, 2019 and June 24th, 2021. Lai's defense team argued the time limit for prosecution had already expired and the case should be dismissed, while the prosecution stressed handing relevant documents to the court equated to laying the charge within the time frame. The 3 national security judges handling the case said they need more time to make considerations, and the hearing has been adjourned until Friday. Research by the Hong Kong Deposit Protection Board found that savings among residents had increased after the pandemic. The survey, covering about 1,000 residents aged 18 or above, was conducted between early September and early November. The findings indicated average savings per person per month increased from $7,700 last year to $9,000 this year. That's a rise of around 17%. The figure also broke the record for survey results over the past 6 years. The survey also found that Hong Kong people will only feel safe if they have $1.08 million worth of liquid assets. Ombudsman Winnie Chu has announced the launch of a direct investigation to examine the provision of post-death public services by government departments and the hospital authority. They include death registration, mortuary services, and burial services. And the probe will cover the Department of Health, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, the Immigration Department, and the hospital authority. Chu said she wants to find out if they can consolidate experience gained during the COVID pandemic to improve the services they offer to the public. Chu also said on TVB's Straight Talk program that recommendations made by her office are taken seriously by the government.
Even though our recommendations are not legally binding, but almost all of them have been accepted for implementation. And just recently, the Chief Secretary on behalf of the government tabled in the Legislative Council the government minute in reply to my annual report, in which the acceptance of our recommendation and implementation progress is reported.
The United States and Finland signed a defense cooperation agreement on Monday as Finland's accession to the NATO alliance is being established. The 2 nations have ramped up defense cooperation since Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine. Finland shares a border with Russia. The deal will grant U.S. soldiers access to Finland's Air Force bases, naval bases, garrison areas, training areas, storage areas, and border guard barracks. In addition, the agreement will enable U.S. forces to pre-position defense equipment, supplies, and material in the territory of Finland. It will also allow for the entry and movement of U.S. aircraft, vessels, and vehicles. It aims to facilitate joint training operations. During a signing ceremony at the U.S. State Department, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken heralded the agreement.
When it goes into effect, our militaries will be able to collaborate more efficiently and more effectively. Our troops will have more opportunities to train together, and we will bolster NATO's interoperability. This agreement builds on 3 decades of security cooperation between our nations on everything from countering terrorism to boosting Finland's defense capabilities, including through the recent purchase of F-35 fighter jets.
In Iceland, a volcano has erupted on the country's Reykjanes Peninsula, turning the sky orange and putting the country's civil defense on high alert. The eruption appears to have occurred about 3.9 kilometers from the town of Grindavik, which was evacuated in November after strong seismic activity damaged homes and raised fears of an imminent eruption. As the eruption spread, semi-molten rock could be seen spewing along the ridge of a hill. A scientist who flew over the site on Tuesday told Icelandic broadcaster RUV that he estimates twice as much lava had already spewed than the entire month-long eruption on the peninsula this summer. Authorities last month evacuated the nearly 4,000 inhabitants of the fishing town of Grindavik, about 40 kilometers southwest of the capital city, Reykjavik. That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.